So just by way of introduction, my name is Scott Downey. I'm principal with the Spiesel Group. You've seen Tony mostly lately. Tony has the pleasure of being on vacation this evening, so actually all week. So I'm filling in, but just by way of background, the process that has led us up to this point has spanned a number of years with the district. It has included consideration of a fairly broad range of options for the district to address its facility, capacity, and enrollment needs. And what we're going to go through here is a specific option that's being proposed to be advanced to a referendum and is put out for your consideration. So by way of background, districts around New Jersey go to referendum to do capital improvements. Districts really can't do these kinds of capital improvements within their budgets because of budget caps and other restrictions. So the referendum is a typical public process. Referendums can be held several times during the year. So the overall plan that this process has led up to address the needs includes a reconfiguration of the grades at the district's schools in order to provide the space to handle enrollment and capacity moving forward. And this includes at the elementaries, configuring those schools to serve early childhood through second grade. The existing middle school, currently serving grades 5 through 8, would be reconfigured to serve grades 3 through 6. The high school would be serving grades 10 through 12, and grades 7, 8, and 9 would be accommodated in a new facility, which I'll go into a little bit of detail on. Alterations, renovations, and upgrades would also occur at the various schools, and I'll walk you through those. So starting with Fairmount. So the terminology here, Department of Education refers to alterations and renovations. Alterations tend to be space reconfigurations. Renovations tend to be more system-related, replacing a roof, replacing equipment, so forth. So the alterations that would happen at Fairmount would include the realignment of the school, would include upgrades to the bathrooms, including early childhood bathrooms, a new elevator, reconfiguration of the office, and creation of a secure vestibule. So upgrading security and access control at the facility. And this is a common theme you'll hear for each of the schools. I will talk more about the costs at the end, so right now we'll just kind of go through the scope. So renovation-wise, this includes at Fairmount the upgrading and improvement of the student drop-off area to create a better drop-off zone. On the exterior of the building, repairing of brick lintel conditions around the building. Lintels span over the windows and doors and are deteriorated due to their age. It includes window replacements. It includes upgrading for other safety matters, exit stair at the auditorium, glass in the doors in the school, similar to what you see in these doors over here, and electrical and fire alarm system upgrades as well. And then in terms of mechanical systems, HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning upgrades. The boiler plant would be replaced. The building controls, which allow the thermostats and the systems to be controlled and operated by the staff at the school, those would be upgraded. And HVAC improvements in classrooms, auditoriums, gymnasium, the library, the cafeteria, and the faculty room. So in the essence of time, I won't spend a lot of time on the plans because they don't add a lot to the description I just gave you, but just to hit the highlights, you see the blue areas, those are primarily the bathrooms that are being renovated. The other colors you see on the plan are just how the spaces would be allocated through the schools. Again, blue areas being the alterations, primarily bathrooms in this case. I'm sorry? The elevator is right there. So at Hillers, similar alterations in some regards. The reconfiguration of the school, bathroom alterations, as we mentioned at the other school. In this case, the nurses' area would also be reconfigured. The nurses' area is in need of some work to be in compliance with code and operational needs. Art room upgrades and classroom alterations, as well as ADA improvements to the cafeteria. In terms of the renovations, again, student drop-off on the outside of the building, the bricks and lintel repairs that would happen around the school, window replacement, Sound attenuation improvements, some improvements in the school to enhance acoustics and make the learning environment better and easier for people to understand each other. Roof replacement, interior doors would be replaced for age and operation as well as safety and security and lockdown. Electrical service and the generator here, a generator and transfer switch would be focused on the key emergency systems at the school. Again, the boiler plant, similar to the other school, would be replaced. Building controls would be upgraded, and then HVAC in the classrooms, auditorium, gym, library, cafeteria, and faculty room. So again, I'm going to kind of skip through the plans. The ADA access would be in this area for the cafeteria. The blue area is primarily bathrooms. There are some rooms at Hillers that are currently subdivided. So this room, for example, has a wall down the middle, which would be opened up so it can better serve early childhood grades and other needs, and that happens in a couple of locations at this school. At Jackson Avenue, again, bathroom renovations, new elevator. The main office would be reconfigured and upgraded, and again, secure vestibule to enhance security and access control at the school, and classroom alterations. And then renovations here include, again, student drop-off, the exterior brick and steel lintel repairs, ramps and sidewalk upgrades for safety and ADA access, acoustic improvements, the hot water heater replacement, interior doors, emergency lighting, and the generator, again, focused on the emergency systems at the school. Again, similar illustrations here in the plan, upgrades and improvements in this area related to access control and the office, as well as bathrooms and space reconfigurations to accommodate the new grade arrangement. At Parker, again, you'll see a theme here, some bathrooms, including early childhood bathrooms, upgrades to the offices, secure vestibule, and then Parker, because of the particular nature of that school, improvements to the third and fourth floor to improve security and control in that what is currently an open plan building. Drop-off area, the exterior would be prepared, in this case brick and stucco, again door hardware for safety and lockdown as well as operations. The gymnasium floor would be replaced, a new hot water equipment, a new fire alarm system, generator, and lighting in certain areas, specifically gym and classrooms. HVAC upgrades here include a variety of equipment, exhaust fans, AHU. These are very obscure abbreviations if you don't know them, but AHU is just an easy way to say air handling units that provide the ventilation, heat, and cooling in the school. Those would happen, that's equipment that serves the building a number of areas as well as the gym specifically. Unit heaters, these are the units that are in each individual classroom that provide heat and ventilation. They would be upgraded along with the building controls. And again at Nellie Parker, similar in terms of the colors and what they're showing you, specifically the third and fourth floor. The divisions here that you see would allow better acoustics, better division of the space for teaching and multiple uses. And the layout is done in a way so that we maintain consistency with code. We have to maintain corridors and egress and so forth through these areas. Now at the middle school and upper elementary school, which would be changing to grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, bathroom renovations to the STEAM and other lab spaces, and some classroom alterations. And then renovations include, again, the exterior, including windows, door hardware replacements, gym floor replacements, and then safety and security, fire alarm, generators, electrical service upgrades, replacement of part of the roof, and a new playground to be consistent with the grades that would then be in place at the school. The HVAC improvements include a variety of equipment, again exhaust and various mechanical fans and equipment that would be upgraded, air handling units for ventilation, heating, and cooling, indoor air handling units as well as some of those located in the roof, administration improvements, unit heaters for heating and ventilation, and building control upgrades. So in terms of the plan, you see some of the alterations in the blue, bathrooms, STEM labs, and upgrades, and then how some of the grades would be distributed through the various areas of the building. Now at the high school, this includes a number of upgrades, including the office and main entrance, secure vestibule, upgrading of the lobby floor and lighting outside the gym, bathroom upgrades, shop and robotics, and TV studio upgrades as well. Renovations here would include, again, the exterior, masonry, windows, door hardware. We mentioned the gym lobby, also safety systems, fire alarm devices. The PA system would be upgraded, improved in terms of operation. And then field house lighting and the pool mechanical upgrades are part of that picture as well. And then on the HVAC side, again, exhaust and various mechanical equipment based on age and operation, classroom units, gym and cafeteria HVAC, auditorium HVAC, unit heaters, electrical, and the building controls to improve the operation of the building as a whole. So again, the areas we've described, I'll kind of skip over this. We can certainly come back and talk in more detail if you wish. So the new component to the picture is the new 789 school. This school would be built next to the high school and on the property adjoining. It would include a gym, would include an auditorium, and the auditorium would be anticipated to be used not just for those grades in that school, but being located next to the high school could serve a cooperative relationship with the arts programs at the various schools. Obviously a media space, common areas. There would be a parking garage that would be built. The site itself can support the school, but the site is relatively tight when you consider the size of the school for about 1,470 kids and the parking needs that are around this area in general. But being located next to the high school, that parking garage can serve both schools, and also the buildings can share resources. So to orient you, we are right here in the media center. So this is the high school. The main entrance to the high school is here. Current parking areas are here and here. And the school would sit in this section of the site, and the parking garage would sit in this section of the site here. So just to walk you through a quick layout, the site itself, on the left-hand side of the plan, the site does slope up. So those areas of the building that don't need a lot of window space or big volume spaces, the gym, specifically kitchen, servering, mechanical space, and so forth, would kind of be built into that hill on the lower level. Then you have the center portion of the plan, which shows a large commons area, which would be also used for cafeteria, informal learning, breakout activities, and other things, as well as after-hours usage. And then up here you see the media center. This is the office. So the district administration building is right here across the street. The high school is down here to your lower right. And the main entrance and office area would be off of that corner of the school there. This area here would be various classroom wings. So the classrooms are configured into groupings. So you think of it as a house or a grade grouping, if you will, or maybe it might be focused on a certain focus area or a magnet learning program or something like that. Those details will be worked out. But each grouping consists of a series of classrooms. It consists of faculty and special education support space. In the gray, you see science and or STEM spaces. And then you see some spaces that are labeled collaboration. So these classrooms will be designed to work with that collaboration space. So kids and teachers aren't just restricted to the box of the classroom. Those classrooms will be able to be opened up. Those students and activities can spill out into those areas. Multiple classrooms can do shared activities, and those areas can be programmed actually independently as well. That type of a space is becoming much more common in schools these days, particularly at middle and high school levels. Each floor has about 25 instructional spaces, plus art and music. In this case, the auditorium is at this end. Again, the entrance, administration building, high school is down here. This kind of core that runs through that common space in the middle is kind of that public core. setting up for after-hours activities. So the art rooms up here are shown in, music rooms up here are shown in blue, and the classrooms for the various grades are shown to the right. And then when you go to the upper level, you have the art rooms in yellow, and the other classrooms there to the right in the various colors. So the design is still obviously forming, and there's a lot of detail to be fleshed out yet, but these are the plans as they stand right now. I've also included just a couple of images. Now this is a very preliminary, just conceptual, but to give you some idea of what that center space might look like. This is a preliminary model that shows the the breakout usage, cafeteria, and miscellaneous usage on the lower level, and then circulation areas around it on the various floors. So this is kind of one vision of what that might look like, and again, we're just beginning to model it, and it's beginning to take shape, so there's a lot of development yet to come. But the space would be skylight, and we want to bring natural light down into all of these spaces. The commons areas, the classrooms, would all have access to natural light, either directly from the outside or borrowed through skylights and adjacent windows. So everything involves dollars, right? So alterations, if you add up the various numbers there, about $16.5 million for the various alterations at each of the schools. Renovations, about $17.5 million. Now these dollars represent what I'll describe as project costs. So these are material and labor costs. They also include allowances for soft costs, which include about half of that soft cost is contingency, fees, permitting costs, bidding costs, legal costs, all the things that districts normally incur as part of projects. Now these are budgets. Obviously the real costs will be determined by a bidding process that will happen after the full design and documentation does advances after the referendum. So we purposely budget to be careful. The district, when a district goes to referendum, you're asking the public for the permission to spend a maximum amount, no more, not a dollar more. So obviously the goal is to spend ultimately less. And we're including contingency because as we dig in the ground and we open walls, we often find things that are a little unexpected. And that hopefully is minimized by the work that will happen after the referendum in terms of the detailed engineering, but that is why the contingency is part of that budget. So that the HVAC upgrades would be at the various schools. Obviously, because of the size of the buildings, most of that is focused at the middle school and the high school, so about $33.4 million. So the overall total of all these things, including the new school, at about 195,000 square feet, it's about $97 million, and plus the alterations, renovations, and HVAC upgrades. Would bring you to that total. Now, as I understand it from Tony, we don't yet have estimates of tax impact from council? Okay, no. So that will be coming. That number is a big number, but the number that's important to you as the public is what does that actually cost you as a taxpayer? So the bond council and the financial folks are working on that now, and they take into consideration the tax characteristics of the municipality and so forth. So that will be forthcoming as soon as we have that information, and that will help you better understand what that number actually does mean. So with that, sir, can open up to any questions.
Yes. And just as a reminder, again, this whole presentation will be available online on the district's webpage. So if you were not able to copy down information, you can refer to that on the website. Yes, Ms. Wallace.
Okay, a couple of questions.
Yes.
One, the renovations that are happening this summer have nothing to do with that.
No.
Right.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
So the renovations, every year we allocate a certain amount for capital that we spend on renovations. And so we're doing everything we can within the budget that we have. What we're going for is for stuff that we would never be able to do under the current
No, and I
capital
just wanted to make
expenses.
sure that-
Correct. So that's why you don't see them listed
Right.
here.
Okay, for the new school, the 7-9,
Yes.
it's laid out that it's covering the entire parking lot where partial staff and the student park.
Correct.
So that whole parking lot's going to be gone?
Yeah, the school would take that part of the site, but the parking garage, with multi-level parking garage, would provide 200, slightly over 200 spaces.
Okay, so in that parking parking lot there, that's more than 200 spots, isn't it?
The one that you have right now?
Yeah.
I don't know, we would have to
I'm
check
not
that.
actually sure of the count.
We'll have to
But
check.
You're only adding 200 to a lot that already probably has about 100, so you're only giving 100 parking spots back, which isn't even going to cover the staff, probably the staff members parking. in
I see what
that.
you're saying.
And
Between the
then-
staff and parking, between the staff and students is what you're talking about.
Yeah, like
Got
there's
it.
not going to be any parking for any students, and with the hospital up the street, that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be an issue with
So,
parking.
so my understanding, and we'll note of that, because we are going back and forth to make sure we actually have the right number of parking spots there, is that it would be a gated parking garage, so outsiders would not be able to go in and park in there unless we find that it's usable for us to rent it out for space or whatever, but you're right.
But I
Correct.
just want to make sure that you consider that, because,
Thank
I
you.
mean, that is, the parking lot, not all seniors get parking, and I know,
Correct.
like, the first 7 rows are staff members.
Mhm.
Now,
Right.
where it used to all be students.
Right.
So, please consider that.
Then you're adding another building as well.
Correct.
Right, and then you're adding, right, you're
Yes.
adding to it, so.
Yeah, definitely
that,
noted.
The other thing was, didn't we replace the gym floor at the middle school within the last 5 years?
I don't
It was just
believe
repaired?
so. No, the high school gym floor was
I know the high
replaced.
school was, but I thought maybe it was just repaired.
I think it might have been just repaired.
Just repairs, and they're very complicated because the floors,
Yeah,
the
I know.
parts aren't,
It's-
well, and the parts don't exist anymore.
Right. No, no,
So
that's
it's,
why I just
yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
sure, 'cause I remember something happening, I wasn't sure if it was a full replacement.
No.
Uh,
And just to clarify on the middle school roof also, is that what's happening this summer, we clarified at the committee, is a partial roof replacement. So what you see here, it's the fixing of the rest of it.
The rest of
Yeah.
Correct.
And then the other one was.
Can I just interrupt for a second? Superintendent Marks has some clarification on potential parking issues.
Oh, sorry.
We do know that parking is a hot commodity, and we're in stiff competition with the medical center next door. But one of the things that I'd like to share with the public is to highlight that we have recently started meeting with city council. And at our most recent meeting, one of the options that was brought to the table by the city was the idea of possibly extending some land across American Legion Way and connecting there to provide us with much needed land space that would support not just parking, but possibly an extending of the fields so that we could look at other options for turfing and making our fields multi-use. And so those conversations just started, but we're hopeful that they'll lead to more productive meetings regarding more concrete planning that would then also support the parking, Nancy.
As the discussions are ongoing, we haven't had a chance to loop in the architect about it,
Yeah.
but I felt the need to have Rosemary address that there are things that we are currently discussing
Right.
that will have ripple effects with here. So,
Absolutely.
But that's good to know, because we want to make sure we get the counts right, so we don't have to run out of space.
Watching the thing, I just was thinking.
Yes.
no, we,
You're absolutely right.
that's why we're having the question and answer, so that you can help us stay on track, and then we can also point out where there's things that are off the page that we can give you some assurances
And one
on.
thing that's not up here that we will have next time is the fields, what the field configuration would look like, because the architect is looking, as we heard about, going over American Legion toward the tennis courts. So if you know the guy soccer field, basically, extending that over, and that would give us more field space. So we are taking into account our conversations with the athletics teams and the leadership, so that we make sure that we're not taking away as much field as we possibly can. We're trying to make sure we stay as much as we can within the space that we have. Yes, yes.
Yeah, does that make sure that then every school will be handicap accessible?
Every school will be handicapped accessible, yes.
Correct. And I actually, that really good segue to, just wanted to highlight something for folks, because I know the designs are hard to see, but once we put it up on the website, you can review it. Two things to know is Jackson and Parker will both be moving their main offices. So basically, Jackson Avenue, you have that big stairwell to get into the main office. That main office is actually going to be moving to the ground level, where usually people park. So people will be able to just come right into the building, find the main office there, get on the elevator, and get upstairs. And the same thing is for Parker. Parker. The Parker main office would be moved downstairs where the usual parking space is on the Esplanade side of the building. So people will be able to come in on ground level and get into the elevator from there and then get into the building. So there'll be some reconfigurations of where the offices are located to address for that.
And the auditorium in Parker as well?
In-
The auditorium is not handicapped,
So that we would have to, go ahead.
So we tried to make handicap accessibility and meeting ADA guidelines, as well as security, major priorities as part of these conversations with the renovations and the alterations being done across the district. And at Parker School, you do have an elevator downstairs. That will be the main entrance, where the back parking lot is, where the school buses come. The main office will be there for security purposes. It'll provide for a security vestibule to ensure higher levels of security. And then, once you get through the security vestibule, you will have access to the auditorium via the elevator that's right down the hall.
You're talking about the inside of the auditorium.
The current one is got at the very back for access for wheelchairs. But if some poor child has to walk down to receive it.
They won't be able to make it.
There is no way
Got it.
to get to the bottom of the.
You're talking about at the auditorium?
Inside of the auditorium.
Inside the auditorium at the stage.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that.
We will make note of a possible ramp being reconfigured in that space on one side.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
I believe Mrs. West had a question.
Oh.
Securing the classrooms on the third floor in Parker, do you mean putting up walls?
Yes.
We-
There'll be partial walls. Part of the reason why, and the architect explained it to us, was that that main stairwell, if you come in through that main stairwell, what you're basically going to have is almost like a pseudo hallway, so that if you need to lock down, you'll see a lockdown. Can you pull
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
Parker? I think it might be the second to last. I know Parker alumni are very sad about the walls, and I'm sorry, but security calls for us to figure it out.
Which
So
floor?
basically, I hope folks can hear me.
Right there in
So
the middle.
basically, the idea is that you have the main stairwell. These two are going to be sort of main, sort of a hallway, so that you can basically lock down here and lock both areas from the main entryway.
Right.
And then these are the partial walls that are going up to also allow for security in case someone does in fact get through that. And so that will actually, because it is a huge security issue right now, if that anyone gets into that floor, it's an open space, so that's being accounted for.
Another question.
Yes.
Very similar setup.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I missed that, but are there going to be partial walls going up there too?
For Jackson Avenue?
For Jackson, I can't
By
remember.
the kindergarten area, she said?
You're talking about here. The current kindergarten area, I believe, is becoming pre-K. And so based on pre-K standards, they're going to be the configuration of pre-K, because they have to be open
Certain amount
spaces
of
for a
open
certain.
space, yeah.
It'll be pre-K.
Right.
Because you'll be shifting everyone up, so the pre-K will be moving into that section of the building. Yep.
So we're getting rid of ECDC.
Correct. Yay!
Yes.
Yes.
This way, there's universal pre-K
This would
at
be
all of our elementary schools, and it will help to increase participation. It will start increasing participation of all PTAs at a very early level. I think it's really good all around.
Correct. So yes, that would we are accounting for all the pre-K numbers that we are accounting to have when we do open up the new buildings for pre-K. So that would mean the numbers that we have in ECDC now, plus wherever else we will be taking in, and that would be for 4-year-olds.
And from a budgetary perspective, I'd like to highlight, I think it's really important to understand, we receive preschool aid, and preschool aid accounts for a majority of the funds we use to pay teachers, and at times, even a lot of the paras. Once we are able to provide, the preschool aid formula is based on the number of what the state calls FTEs, full-time equivalents. Providing this pre-K will provide the district with much-needed early literacy teaching to our the littlest ones, and it will cost very little in terms of the effect on our budget, which is a win-win for our parents, for the entire community, as well as for our taxpayers.
And to note, a lot of the renovations that you're seeing in the elementary schools, the toilet renovations, all that, is actually to comply with
Right.
pre-K requirements that come from the state. You can't just put pre-K in a kindergarten room because you need a bathroom in the room, you need a certain amount of space for the students. So that's the reason why you're starting to see all these retrofitting in the buildings. Some of it is required in order to be able to house the pre-K. So that's what you're starting to see in those changes. Basically, we need to make those changes to be able to get to not use ECDC anymore and be able to house them into our buildings. And along with that, also, one thing I know, architect jargon, it's easy for us to try and remember what it means. So I've learned a lot from Rob, who's been in our buildings and grounds meetings a lot. The building controls and the administration language you see around HVAC, that means right now some of our boilers have to be manually figured out, turned on, turned off. They're very old also, so that means that they cost us a lot of money in terms of energy efficiency. So what this does is it makes them all automated, so you can actually run them automatically, check that they're working automatically, turn them on and off automatically, and it also means that they would be more energy efficient. So right now, we pay a company to come in and turn them on and turn them off and maintain them because they're so old. What you would be doing is getting rid of that cost because we'd be upgrading all of our energy efficiency programs across the district in a way that you will need to have somebody come and specially service our boilers because we'd be creating new ones in the district. So something to keep in mind. Yes?
Question, just to clarify, I think there's currently like a lottery system for pre-K now.
Yes.
Would the pre-K be for every child in the district?
So the plan would be universal, meaning to provide for every child in the district for 4-year-old pre-K programs.
And
Yes.
Ms. Marks, and right now, we currently have between 25 and 30% of our preschool-age children actually taking advantage of or being in the ECDC. So this would allow us to expand that to potentially, I mean, really, to provide universal pre-K, but, right, I just want to
That is
confirm that.
correct. Yeah. And the goal would be to eliminate the need for a lottery system. So if you want to register your child for a full-day preschool program, we would have availability for every child, every parent who wants to register their child.
And one other thing about pre-K, under the current administration in Trenton, there's a real interest in providing additional funding for pre-K. It would be very unfortunate if we would have to turn away funding as a district because we don't have the actual capacity at ECDC to do that. So this would allow us to expand our program and to take advantage of additional future potential dollars that could come to the district.
And if I'm not mistaken, the state is actually using our small pilot program as an example of what pre-K program is supposed to look like across the state. So this is actually creating the facility space to be able to bring that to a full program. And the way the numbers are calculated, it's basically you look at what your first grade and what your kindergarten population looks like and then stipulate from there how many of the pre-kindergartners are going to come in. Obviously, not every parent in the city is going to bring their child into pre-K. Some of them may want to take their child to where they work and it's closer to home, closer to work or something like that. But we are accounting to basically be able to accommodate anyone who would want to send their kid here for pre-K. Other questions? Yes, so the next steps would look like is we have to submit this to the Department of Education. The Department of Education is going to look at this and tell us whether there's specific aid that we would qualify for, because sometimes when you make specific upgrades to your buildings, the state might be able to give you some aid. What is not covered for aid. That's why these the impact numbers for what the taxpayer would actually pay are not here right now, because we have to submit to the state first. They also have to approve every single thing you've seen in this list is an individual application to the DOE. The DOE reviews every one of those items, checks that we are good to go, and then they approve it. So for it to go to a referendum. So we have to pass a resolution here on the Board of Ed sometime in the summer, hopefully by July. Then it would go to the Department of Education. We should hear from the DOE closer to the fall, I think maybe August, September. And then that would mean that it would go to a referendum to the public to vote in January. Then you have about 8 months from the moment that passes, if it passes, to then break ground, and that's when the construction would start. And then I believe it's 18 months or 16 months or so after that for the construction?
Yeah, well, 18 months or so, because some of these projects will involve some phase construction. Parker, for example, might involve some phase construction, the high school and middle school. So the timeline in those locations might stretch a little bit, but for the new school, we usually figure on about 18 months or so.
So a lot of the constructions in each of the buildings are going to be happening during breaks and during the summer. So you're going to have multiple summers of upgrades and constructions in the current buildings as the new building is being constructed, so that hopefully we time it in such a way that when let's say it finishes somewhere in January, February of 2021, that would mean that it gives us about 6 months to shift all the kids and all the grade levels around into the new building so they can slide in right into the new year. Hopefully, if nothing, screws up our timeline, but that's roughly what it would look like right now.
And it's just really important for everyone to remember that, we really are dealing with an aging district, aging buildings. Some that were constructed back in 1899, I think, was when they broke ground in Parker, or in Fairmont. So we really have to deal with modernizing those buildings, making upgrades to those buildings, as well as constructing a new building, so that you will see improvements across the district, and that everyone gets to experience those improvements as a district. So that's really been a big part of our goals.
Yeah, this is pretty much a full overhaul of the whole Hackensack Public School District. It is not just a new building. It is an upgrade to the 21st century, so we can actually use our buildings the way they were intended to be used, and in the way that we know education is going to start moving going forward.
Sorry, one last.
Yes,
So with the new building,
yes.
you said it would take about, 16?
18 months.
About 18 months, yeah.
Okay, so how much, is that going to extend, how much of a closure of the surrounding area are you going to need for the construction to be safe? Because that's definitely almost 2 years of a school being open and kids being there and a lot of functions going on
Yeah.
with a big construction site happening.
Yeah, it's a good question. It is a fairly tight site, so we will be working out in detail, how that will happen. We haven't developed that yet, but it will get done, and we will be able to show you and let you understand how, the site's going to operate and where the restrictions are going to be.
Okay, just,
Yeah.
do that.
Yep.
Yeah, we also don't want to get into the field space or anything like that and cause more problems than we need to. And part of the conversation that we're having with the city council is about how they can maybe accommodate some of the teams in some of the city fields and whatever else we could use while the construction is happening, so that we can actually make sure that our sports are not being impacted negatively while this is happening.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is not the last time we'll be talking about this. Obviously, we have been bringing it over. We've been trying to be as transparent as possible with all of you. If there are any other questions, please send them our way. There is a survey on the website that we're going to start asking folks to give us feedback if you have any comments, questions, concerns here, and then we'll keep updating everyone on next steps.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Pre-K started, it was 1968.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Good reminder. There's still a survey on the website right now to join the advisory team. Please, if you are interested, sign up, because we want to make sure that we have a team ready to go. Because as we heard, this is a very close to ready kind of plan, but things are still being tweaked, things are still being finalized, and then once it goes to DOE, Department of Education, there are things that are also going to be changing in terms of the program and what's in it. And so we really need feedback, and folks, all hands on deck. And when it comes to the fall, we're going to have to be preaching to every person you see down the street to make sure they vote for this. And so we're going to need a team that's ready to go and literally talk to everyone you know to make sure they vote for this, because otherwise we're not going to be able to move forward with the project. So please sign up. It's on the website.